U.S. reinforces Iraq Arms Sales Office. Internal inquiry showed poor record keeping. Missing weapons. Washington. The Pentagon is bolstering a badly understaffed office in Baghdad to speed the flow of warfighting gear to Iraqi forces and help keep the weapons from insurgents and off the black market. The increase in staff from 6 to nearly 70 includes a 2-star general who arrived in Iraq 2 weeks ago to manage the expanding team. Army Reserve Major General George Smith replaces a colonel, evidence of the greater clout for an office that handles billions and billions of dollars in arms sales. The new push is intended to untie the bureaucratic knots or nightmare blocking aircraft, armored vehicles, radios, and guns from getting to Iraqi police and the military units that are taking more control over the country's security. Over the summer, Iraqi officials complained bitterly that the delays were forcing their troops to fight with substandard equipment. As demands for more and better gear have escalated, so too have concerns over who is winding up with the supplies. Corruption within Iraq's government has been well documented, and tens of thousands of U.S. supplied weapons have gone missing. Terrorist groups allegedly have used some of the firepower. In one case, Turkish officials complained to U.S. authorities that guns the Turks seized from a Kurdish militant group had markings matching those on weapons intended for Iraqi forces. More monitoring needed. The Pentagon's internal watchdog, Claude Kicklighter, led an investigation to determine how pervasive the problem is and what needs to be done to tighten control over arms, ammunition, and explosives. Kicklighter's findings, already presented to Defense Secretary Robert Gates, are classified. While the Iraqis will continue to receive weapons from a variety of sources, the goal is to emphasize the more regimented and transparent foreign military sales system that the United States uses with other allies. Smith said in a telephone interview with the Associated Press, "Over the long haul, as security develops here in Iraq, they're going to be able to develop their economic power," supposedly said Smith, who met with Kicklighter before leaving for Iraq. "I don't know that we can afford to be supporting over a terribly long period everything that a nation needs to provide for its own national defense. So it's entirely appropriate they go in a direction of purchasing their own equipment. Or here's an idea. How about we make Iraq another state of the United States? Then we could take care of them indefinitely." But there are many risks in pushing more weapons into a country with a government striving for stability. For countries that are struggling with corruption, with internal violence, with threat of diversion or theft or misappropriation, is it the best policy to be funneling as many weapons to that country as possible? Said Rochelle Stoll, a senior analyst at the Center for Defense Information in Washington. Or are there other things the United States could be doing first to strengthen democracy rather than just fueling the cycle? Smith said part of his mandate is to monitor where the gear, including sensitive items such as night vision goggles, goes. and where it ends up. Keeping tabs on equipment not purchased from U.S. manufacturers is much more challenging. The Iraqis use their money to place orders. Smith's office acts as the middleman, steering the requests through the contracting process. While the Iraqis often want equipment made by U.S. defense contractors, that is not always the case. For example, Smith said his office has finalized a deal for Russian-made helicopters to be used by Iraq's Air Force. The more formal approach contrasts with a U.S.-funded account that has distributed billions and billions of dollars in arms and weapons and support equipment to the Iraqis since 2003. U.S. military officials have not kept good records, though. However, as they have hurried to overhaul Iraq's army and police force, approximately 190,000 assault rifles and pistols were not fully accounted for, according to one audit completed in July. What kind of deal is that? 190,000 weapons gone missing? Well, that's one way to arm the enemy, I suppose, if there be such as. A report last month about a separate investigation found that the very sloppy record keeping persists and that U.S. commanders cannot be sure where all the weapons or the gear paid for with dollars is even going. Yes, I guess it could fall into the hands of the insurgents to be used on American troops. You think? Smith, who previously worked as a Joint Staff's Deputy Director for Strategic Initiatives, said it would be early summer before his office is fully staffed. By the end of December, he will have close to 24 people. A system bogged down. While Iraq's orders for weapons have increased from $200 million to more than $3 billion over the past year, there is no corresponding increase in the number of U.S. officials to meet the expanded workload. Gates said in a December 4th letter to leaders of the House Armed Services Committee. As a result, the buying process had bogged down and led Iraq to seek equipment elsewhere, including from China. Members of Congress wanted to know if Iraq was using any U.S. money to buy Chinese equipment. What do you think? The Defense Department has no information indicating that happened, Gates said, nor is the U.S. Security Assistance Office helping with this sale, as far as he can tell. But I don't really think he's really sure. In his letter, Gates said a special task force led by Deputy Defense Secretary Gordon England found that the U.S. weapons shipments to Iraqi security forces were not given a high enough priority. That too is supposedly being fixed, according to Gates. Smith acknowledged that the sales system is not built for speed, whatever that means. If that could work to Iraq's advantage, because of its discipline and transparency, it helps the Iraqis to deflect any arguments that some might make about corruption, although there is corruption involved. But if you're going to have discipline, that entails a certain amount of time, or something like that. I'm sorry, but this is not good news. 190,000 assault rifles and pistols, no telling how many other things have gone missing, including ammunition, bullets, bulletproof vests, night vision goggles, but just no telling how much stuff has gone missing, is there? No, not really, is there? These are more signs of the last days, and there are many of them, multitude upon multitudes. Period.